Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 40 of Halfway Through the Heat, the world's most important, the world's most prescient, the world's most potent Trans-Pacific Wrestling podcast. This week, we are going to talk about Payback. We're going to talk about some news, some unhappiness among some of the WWE talent, it seems, some legal news. We've got some indie show reports, including some drama involving Ring of Honor. But first, we're going to do what we always do. We're going to say something positive about Raw. With me, as always, in beautiful Tokyo, Japan, is Joe. Joe, how are you?
All right. It's currently storming outside, so if you hear wind and rain, it's on my end.
Okay. And it's currently election night in the U.S., so if you hear things beeping and buzzing, it's my phone with people tweeting and texting me about the results of the election.
Nobody tweets or texts me about the results of elections in the U.S. anymore.
No, you and I we just talk about it.
Yeah.
Podcast. Our wrestling podcast. That's how we resolve things to talk about. All right. Well, so let's start not with election talk, but let's start with Raw. This week's Raw. Something positive about Raw. And since WrestleMania, this has actually been difficult because there's been so much positive about Raw.
Yeah, it's true. It's like the weirdest feeling to have too many things to choose from. Where like,
What did you like about this week's? I thought there was a lot of good
there
stuff
was a
this
lot of
week
good
on.
stuff. Basically anything with Kevin Owens is a thumbs up from me.
Yep.
I'm loving Kevin Owens on Raw. I'm loving him. I liked him on the pay-per-view too. It was great. Basically, Kevin Owens is the guy.
I agree, and I liked how they on Raw advanced the storyline between AJ and Roman, and kind of keeping the Usos and the Good Brothers or whoever they are, the Bullet Club guys, in the mix. Like I like the way that they've sort of made this a more complex choice than just like good guy versus bad guy. And they've really given the crowd a chance to cheer AJ and boo Roman, which is what the crowd wants to do. So I thought the way they worked it out on Monday night was pretty good too.
Yeah. See, like, they're not straight up turning Roman Reigns a heel, but they kind of are because you can tell this because on commentary JBL is always big upping Roman,
Yes.
and like
Yeah.
JBL only compliments heels because previously up until like a month ago JBL was like always saying how like what a hothead he was.
Yep.
Recently he's just saying like he's the guy, like it's not exactly the same kind of negative uh I don't know portrayal that JBL has been giving us up until now. So I
That's a very subtle tell, but yeah, I think that's a good one to point out that while they're not going full on heel with Roman, they're letting us see him as a bad guy at least a little bit.
yeah, basically I mean it's a good sign actually. It's like it just means that they're giving giving people what they want sort of in a less obvious way than like him beating up Dean Ambrose or something.
Right. Yeah, and it's also sort of it gives us a perspective on AJ. Like he wants to support his friends. He's not really sure why they're so adamant in helping him in this particular way. He also wants to win the right way, and you kind of saw how he was torn between that because, he's last night he put down the chair in the beginning. He's like, I'm not going to do it this way, and the Usos came out, and he had to help his friends, and then I mean, so it's a more complicated story they're telling him, and I give him credit for that. They're doing it well.
Yeah, it's good. I quite enjoy the thing that's going on with these teams like more than I thought I would because like you know pre
Because you've been so cruel to the Usos.
yeah, well,
You've been so down on the
listen, I'm not
Usos.
saying the Usos are good. I'm just saying that like I like the Roman Reigns part.
You're going to come around on the
I'm
Usos. I can
I'm
feel
never gonna come around on the Usos unless they stop leg slapping and screaming and being the Usos, I guess.
it. Yeah, I like what they've done, and I think everyone's waiting for Finn Balor to reveal himself and all this. And whether or not that happens, I don't know. But right now, I'm curious to see where they take the story, which is something I haven't said in a major storyline in the WWE for a long time. Like I'm actually curious to see how it plays out.
Yeah, it's interesting. Um, it's rare. Yeah, like you said, it's pretty rare that something like that happens, but it's happening, Tom. Dot GIF.
It is happening. GIF. And I don't know what to say. Ever since WrestleMania, the quality of we'll talk about Payback a little later, but ever since WrestleMania, the quality of everything has gone up. The pay per view, Raw. I'm okay, so I haven't watched SmackDown. I don't know, but every Raw has been at least B minus or better since WrestleMania.
Yeah, it's true. And the pay-per-view, which we'll talk about later, way better than you would expect a kind of throwaway pay-per-view like Payback to be.
Yes, yeah, we were cautiously optimistic about the pay per view, and I think our faith was rewarded.
Yeah, that's surprising.
Yeah, it is surprising because usually when you have faith in a WWE event, it looks bad. Um, and you feel bad for yourself for getting excited about a Jericho AJ Styles match that underperforms their SmackDown match. Um, but no, this was good. Raw was good. Advanced some of the major storylines. There's things I didn't like as much. The Gold Tyler Breeze thing was bad, but overall it was a very good Raw. It was not hard to find something positive to say.
Yeah. uh, I didn't even mind the Gold Dust Tyler Breeze thing besides the fact that it like wasn't a match. Um, I'm glad that they're trying to use guys that are like not being used. Like suddenly Fandango is back.
Yeah,
Like that's, I
him and
mean,
Emma had a match on Raw.
great. I mean, I'm sure there's a reason he's there. You know what I mean? Like, please show us why you hired Fandango.
Right, yeah, and honestly, I'll say this about him: he's not that bad as a wrestler. It's just he has what is almost a hopeless gimmick.
Yeah, it's like a Vince '80s gimmick.
It
We need
is.
a dance
It,
teacher as your gimmick. Get on it.
yeah. Do you remember that old Chris Kattan character on Saturday Night Live, Mango?
Yeah, that's
Um,
kind of his gimmick.
it is kind of his gimmick, and and it's a perfect Vince pop culture gimmick in that sense because it's like a dated reference that no one really cares about, and it's like Vince has only now found out about it, and so long after it would make sense to have a reference to that, you're like, oh yeah, Fandango. But yeah, he's back.
um, Too bad for the timing though, because suddenly Jack Swagger was back for a little bit, and then now he's gone again.
That's right. Although, as we'll talk about in the new segment, there may be room for a big fella on the roster.
It's true.
All right, so that was Raw. That was why don't we talk about the news?
Yeah, there's some interesting news. Speaking about that big fella,
Yeah, tell us about that. What's going on? What's going on with Ryback?
apparently the Ryback, I'm gonna call him the Ryback,
The Ryback
was sent home, gone, off of TV indefinitely, apparently.
indefinitely.
Yeah, because some kind of contract negotiation problems where he asked to be taken off TV until it was sorted out. Apparently, he asked himself to be taken off TV, and
Yeah, what the report has said is that he's not happy with the way he's being used and has been used, and he's been kind of making that clear in sort of subtle ways and not so subtle ways. Like on his gear, he had airbrushed the pre-show stopper,
yeah,
and his
that
contract.
was great, by the way. The pre-show stoppers.
That was great. Yeah, I like that. I liked it. That made me almost like the Ryback. Uh, but he apparently is not happy with that. His contract is up in the summer. Is that right?
Yes.
And so he just said, "Hey, I don't want to do this anymore." And the The sad thing is, from my perspective, as we'll talk about, he had a great match. He's the best Ryback match I can remember seeing was on Payback, or okay, technically the Payback pre-show.
Well, the thing with Ryback recently is that like he he's markedly better than he was, and you can see
Yeah,
that he's like honestly trying to get better. Like he's doing new moves that he didn't do before. He's like attempting to be better. So like it almost makes you feel bad for him because like it's not like he's the Big Show where he's just like kind of coasting on being a big guy. He's like actually trying to do stuff. He's recently added a frog splash to his repertoire. You wouldn't expect that from
yeah,
him. Like it's not like I don't think he's particularly good at the moment, but like he's trying. He's trying to get better, and that's I can't fault the guy for that. I got to give him some credit at least. So, you know, um, you know, are we gonna see some Big Mike versus the Ryback in New Japan soon?
yeah. Well, that's a good question. So, what does the Ryback do? Because Ryback is purely a product of the WWE system. What does he do if he doesn't work for WWE?
I don't know. I mean, I guess he would. He could go to Japan.
He could go to Japan. I mean, he, he has gotten better. You're absolutely right. And but I don't know if he's like New Japan better. Although I mean, they do like big Americans, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what
But
I'm saying. Like he could go there and just be a big American. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to be any better than he is because all he has to do is do power moves and the people will like him.
yeah, exactly. And honestly, like Big Mike was not that. A lot of people here were kind of like, oh, whatever, Big Mike, and then he went to Japan last year for the was it the G1
Yeah.
and just showed a completely different side to himself and really impressed a lot of people. Maybe the Ryback is capable of that. We don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I would have been in the same boat because I in my mind like Big Mike was on the in the same vein of wrestlers as Ryback up until that G1 where then it was like, "Oh my God, have I been sleeping on Big Mike?" Maybe Ryback will have a moment like that where everyone will be like, "Holy shit, we've been sleeping on the Ryback. He's good."
That would be great.
Yeah, I'd be excited for that. I mean, like even if he shows up and he's just the same Ryback, it would be like it wouldn't be good, but it would be like, "Oh, well, okay. At least we know where he's at."
Yeah, the Beyond Wrestling here in New England is booking a show for the end of May called Gigantic, and the appeal is that it's going to have a lot of the big lads, as they say. Big Mike himself was going to be there, but he's got a New Japan show conflict instead. But Big Damo from Ireland is going to be there, and Jeff Cobb, aka Matanza Cueto, is going to be there, and some other very big dudes. And people have already been saying to the promoter Drew Cordero, book Ryback. That's not going to happen, but it would be weird to see Ryback on the Indies, and I don't know if that's what he wants. I mean, if his beef is that he's not being pushed enough in WWE, then like the Indies are probably not what he'd want. My guess though is that if his beef is that they're not letting him wrestle as much as he wants and do the stuff he wants, then maybe the Indies or Japan would be right for him.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound actually like he wants to do that. It sounds like from the things he said, it sounded like he was like, "Well, I'd just be done with wrestling."
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be my guess too. If he's if you're done with the WWE and you're not really an indie wrestler, that's not your background, you don't sort of see yourself wrestling as long as you're able, what do? You just leave wrestling and probably open a gym or something.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a he said like he's managed his money well or whatever, so it's not like, he's probably not hurting for money or anything.
The Ryback, wow, that was a surprise to me because I thought they were sort of big on him. Although now that I think about it, he's sort of locked in this feud over the third tier belt, and he's on the pre-show of pay-per-views, the pre-show stopper. Um, so maybe yeah, maybe whoever in WWE has decided that they've gotten as much as they're going to get out of Ryback.
It's possible. But yeah, I mean, I guess I guess it's like a pretty bold step to just be like, yeah, I'm going home.
Yeah,
Screw you guys, I'm going home. Basically, that's what he said.
it's funny because he's sort of emulating his arch rival CM Punk in that regard. Like, hey, I've got plenty of money. I'm just done with wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, pretty interesting. See,
Um,
who knows? Ryback could be a
and we're pretty confident that Wade Barrett is gone too when his contract is up, I believe, next
yeah.
month.
He's been off TV, so
He's been off TV. They've just essentially said um, that's that. So some spots opening up in the roster. Um, our next bit of news: it's a temporary spot opening up in the roster, maybe a permanent one. Who knows? Um, uh, the Adam Rose, as we talked about, I think in our last podcast, Adam Rose was suspended for a wellness policy violation, and at the time, he said it was misunderstanding. It was a legal prescribed drug, and now he has reduced or produced, I should say, he's produced a letter from his doctor saying that he was prescribed Adderall for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder (ADHD), and is saying that he had told the WWE in advance about the ADHD diagnosis, and they knew about the Adderall prescription. Adderall is a prescription drug that is, I should say, very popular on college campuses as a drug to abuse, particularly this time of year, which is finals week, because it helps you concentrate. Um, but if in fact Adam Rose is correct and he was suspended for using a prescribed legal medication, that seems to me a bizarre decision on behalf of the WWE.
yeah. That it does seem pretty strange. Like he did get a doctor's note. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, if you have a doctor's note, um, I don't know what else the WWE would need, and I'm not even sure why they would consider Adderall a wellness policy violation in the first place.
I don't know. Possibly because it just happens to be a drug that people abuse. I mean, it could be like one of like the a just like kind of a catch-all kind of policy where it's just like anything that's in this certain category of commonly abused drugs that are like prescription drugs or whatever. If you test positive for that, it's a violation.
That could be.
I mean, it could just be due entirely to not very well thought out policy.
Yeah, and I think that could be it too. And I think it could be maybe a knee jerk reaction. Um, when every time there's like a young wrestler death, they freak out about their image, and so whatever policy they have may be overly broad or strict. But I can't help but think this is not boding well for Adam Rose ever coming back to television.
Yeah, it's probably not looking so hot for him. I mean, I think I want to say that he realizes that.
I think
I
so.
mean, he's been saying like this is probably not what I should be doing. Like it's probably going to lose me my job, but like it's not for me that I'm doing this. He's saying like I just don't want my kids to think I'm a drug addict or something.
Yeah,
And
and I definitely don't blame him for that. Um, and he's good in the ring, but they've never quite had a character for him that catches on.
yeah, it's weird. It's um the party guy Adam Rose was probably the closest they got when he had the weird group of weirdos that would follow him around. The
Rosebuds.
Rosebuds, yeah.
Yeah, he did pretty well in NXT, although so did the Ascension.
Yeah. So did like a truckload of other people who are now just like floundering on the lower mid card. Poor Bo Dallas.
Poor Bo Dallas.
But also Tyler Breeze and the Ascension and basically almost everyone.
So
Future home actually of the vaudevillains also.
yeah, I think so. I think with the likely departures of the Ryback and Wade Barrett, possible departure of Adam Rose, we're seeing a clearing out of the lower mid card.
Yeah, only to be refilled by people from NXT, Baron Corbin, who already is kind of has no direction.
Yep, Tyler Breeze.
Yeah.
He's he got a win technically on Raw, but like they don't have anything for him to do. Um, so it's odd. Our third piece of news this week. This is maybe my favorite wrestling story, or this is a chapter in what is maybe my favorite wrestling story of the last year. The Hulk Hogan lawsuit, which we've talked about exhaustively here. There's a new wrinkle. Hulk Hogan is once again. This is a great wrestling thing, by the way. When you have a huge, like an event with a huge payday, like a blow off that has like a big gate, you don't just do it once, you come back and do it again. And Hulk Hogan, who was awarded a $140 million judgment against Gawker, which Gawker is appealing, is suing again.
So
He is
great.
suing Gawker and accusing them of leaking a sealed transcript of the sex tape video, which included his use of a racial slur, the worst racial slur you can use in America, to the National Enquirer. Now, Gawker's legal team, or Gawker itself, has long been suspected of being the source for this leak. Nothing has ever been established. And in fact, it would be illegal for them because the documents were ordered sealed by a court. So if, for example, if you were a lawyer and you provided sealed documents to a newspaper and you were discovered, you could be held in contempt of court and you could theoretically be disbarred as a lawyer. But nothing has ever been established. However, Hulk Hogan is proceeding with a lawsuit, arguing that it was Gawker. He has not specified an amount of money, which is common when you file a civil lawsuit. You're just seeking damages. Gawker, of course, denies that it leaked the transcript to the Enquirer. So I don't know. Interesting. Nothing spectacular, but just a new wrinkle in this ongoing legal. I think this legal thing, by the way, is going to go on forever.
Oh yeah, it's gonna go on forever. It's too much money to not go on forever.
Yeah, like the Gawker can't obviously. I mean, if if Gawker doesn't keep appealing, they would have to go to business. They don't have $140 million.
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, they're gonna appeal until they can't appeal anymore.
And Hogan is obviously gonna, he's not gonna just accept the appeal. He's gonna keep fighting it. And this kind of thing is this is a court battle that goes on for years. Adding this lawsuit might be a strategy for the main one to secure a more favorable outcome. I don't know, but yeah, I guess the moral of the story here is, regardless of what the final outcome is, maybe don't post people's sex tapes online.
Yeah, that's what the big takeaway should be. But it also should be, you know, don't provoke Hulkamania to go run wild on you.
That's yeah, yes. As many evildoers learned in the 1980s.
Yeah, I knew this when I was like 8. Come on, Gawker.
um, so I don't know. What do you think about the what do you think about this people leaving the WWE? It's weird to me because there's nowhere to go.
Yeah, it is it is kind of weird, but I think a lot of people have shown that despite there not being a lot of places to go, like pretty much nowhere to go that's on the same level, that you can still go and be fine. Like I think people realize that like you can go and still have like still wrestle and still make enough money to be okay. Like AJ Styles was not making a small amount of money doing what he was doing. Um,
No, that's true. The Young Bucks make a lot of money doing what they're doing.
yeah, so it's not impossible to make money, and I think like other people have shown that like by leaving their shitty situation in WWE where they're like just getting bad booking or whatever, just like totally stuck in the lower mid card, by leaving and then like proving that they can do stuff other places will get them a kind of a comeback to a better spot. And I think that happened sort of with Alberto Del Rio. I mean, he came back because he got so over everywhere else that they were just like, oh, I guess we got to bring him back.
Yeah, I think one of the things about one of the lessons though is if you're going to make it work like AJ Styles or the Young Bucks, you have to A, be a certain kind of wrestler, and B, you really have to work hard. I'm not saying people in the WWE don't work hard. I'm just saying that they have a lot of what they do is sort of set out for them, right?
Yeah,
It's you're traveling 5 days a week. You have TV. Someone else makes all your travel arrangements for you. Now, you obviously put in a lot of work, but guys like AJ Styles when he was in the Indies, the Young Bucks, the top tier indie wrestlers, Ricochet, people like that, they do all that stuff that WWE wrestlers do. They have to stay in great shape. They have to train, but they make all their travel arrangements, and they're in charge of their own merchandise, like design and manufacture and sales. I went to see Ring of Honor last Saturday, and the Young Bucks were there signing 8x10s and taking pictures of people before the show. Like, you really have to do a lot of stuff that WWE wrestlers don't do to make it. And you also have to be the kind of indie wrestler that people really, really want to see and who can get popular in Japan, which means you have to be a certain kind of wrestler. Because Japanese crowds expect certain things from certain wrestlers, and if you can't do that, you're not going to be very popular over there.
true.
So, I mean, it's difficult, and I can see why some people would be kind of intimidated or would just realize, like, look, that's not for me. I like something being a bit more straightforward and set out for me. I don't think I want to have to scramble quite that hard. And so we're in a weird situation right now where you can do well outside WWE, but it's not like it was in the '90s where you could just go to another big company and kind of have the exact same situation.
Yeah, that's true. But it's not. It's also not impossible. So I think like Ryback, like someone like Sammy Callahan or something, who has like said like he wanted to leave to show that he could do other stuff.
Yes.
And like I think his plan is not to like leave and never come back. His plan is to leave and show that he can do better than what they were giving him.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's still possible for. I think it's also easier for guys who have that indie background, where someone like Ryback has never been there, so it would be more difficult, I think, for him to imagine how it can be done.
Oh yeah, I mean that's true.
Whereas people have already done it. Matt Seidel when PJ Black and Drew Galloway when they got let go by the WWE, they knew where to start over and pick up again.
Yeah, I think, but like at the same time, someone like Ryback has pretty good name recognition.
He
So I
does.
think like I doubt he'd have trouble getting bookings.
What's Rybuzz doing in the Impact Zone?
Yeah, that would be that would pretty much be it.
Um, yeah, I could see him on Lucha Underground.
He could be in a never-ending battle with they call him Cage.
Call him Cage and the Ryback.
They could be a tag team. Cage back.
The giant gringos. Um, all right, well, so we've alluded to the Ryback's match at Payback. Why don't we talk about Payback?
All right, so Payback did have two matches on the pre-show, which was um, unexpected.
Yes,
I was expecting the just it to be that one match with Ryback versus Kalisto.
Kalista. What did you think of the pre-show?
Pre-show was all right. Um, the like again the Ryback versus Kalisto was actually a good match.
It was a really good match, and I was surprised because we've seen this match before. And WWE has a way of driving these things in the ground, but they paced it really well. And down the stretch, it was like it was a sprint, and they both really did well. And that's such a mismatch. It's hard to make it believable, but it totally came off.
Yeah, it's strange. It's the kind of thing that you wouldn't expect to work, but when it does, it worked really well. So, thumbs up to those guys for actually having a good match when you wouldn't expect either of them to.
After the match, I don't know. what he meant, but Jerry Lawler, who was on the panel of commentators, said that it was the best match Ryback had ever had, thanks to Kalisto, which is true, but it's like it's not the kind of thing you usually hear people say on television on WWE TV. But it certainly was the best Ryback match I've ever seen, and Ryback did a lot to make it a good match too. But Kalisto's a guy who I think has a tremendous upside, and if they keep using him right, he could be a big star for them. Right now, he's a little bit too much like the GoBots version of Rey Mysterio.
Yeah,
Like they haven't
yeah, that's basically the
established him.
best description you could give of him. He's he's not quite Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, and they need to do a little bit more to come up with a different character for him. But the but I think he works so well in the ring, and he's such an exciting guy to watch. And the fact that he can have a good match with someone who's such a mismatch in terms of size, I think there's a tremendous amount, and he's so young too. There's a tremendous amount of upside to Kalisto, and I hope they don't blow it. Um, so the show itself, I liked Payback,
I liked Payback too. It was good. Um,
and I was surprised at how much I liked Payback.
yeah, um, yeah, there weren't really many low points for Payback. It was pretty good overall.
Yeah, we should say that the sort of worst and scariest part of Payback was the first match
Oh,
when the Vaudevillains
yeah,
again.
geez. That
And
really was
uh,
man, like you watch that and you just like, oh wow. He did he just break his neck?
yeah, Enzo Amore. If you didn't watch it, Enzo Amore, he gets whipped to the ropes to go outside the ring, and he trips or he lands wrong, and he hits his head, and like his neck just snaps against the canvas, and he was out cold. At first it was kind of hard to tell if it was an angle, because it's pro wrestling, so you never know. But when the camera started cutting away from the medics and to the commentary team, that's the signal that this is a real deal injury. And thankfully, he was taken to the hospital. He has a concussion, but he was released from the hospital the same night, and is doing well. But it was a pretty scary moment there because they replayed it a couple times, and you could really see in slow motion like he just snaps his head against the canvas, and he's out. I mean, he's just out cold, which is pretty frightening.
Yeah, I mean it was scary watching because when you watched it, he kind of flopped out of the ring and then you're just like, "Oh,
Yeah.
he's not moving at all." That's bad news. S-
Yep.
So, man, like um the only upside to that is like the only win the Vaudevillains are going to get to win to go against for the tag championship. They're just going to get destroyed by the New Day.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's probably likely. And I honestly think that the plan was to have Enzo and Cass win and face the New Day. That's just a great matchup. Um, but hopefully Enzo will be back in fighting condition soon, and um,
Yeah, I don't know how long it takes for a concussion to heal, but a couple of weeks, I'd
no,
assume.
yeah, and I know they're super because of all the attention on concussions. They're very cautious about that. And other wrestlers have said they've wanted to come back earlier, and WWE is reluctant to let them in until they have two or three doctors saying somebody's cleared. So it may be a little while, but it shouldn't be too long. He's young and he's in good shape. Although the danger is once you've had one concussion, it becomes much easier to get another concussion. So he's got to watch out.
Yeah, you turn into Daniel Bryan,
Yes,
where you're
exactly. Yeah,
having
or
like
like
concussion seizures.
right. Yeah, you don't want that. Um, so after that, the it fell to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn to get the crowd back into the event, and they actually succeeded. They ran that video package of the two of them and their history together, which is a great video package. And then the match was absolutely as good as you could hope for these two guys to have their first big time main roster WWE match in a pay per view against each other. I loved it from start to finish.
Yeah, it was great. Like my only real complaint was that like they did the kick out of the finisher like 8 times.
They did,
It
yeah.
was a little bit overdone on that. But like otherwise it was like a pretty spectacular match. Also I have another complaint was that like the build up to it was nothing.
No, that's true. It seemed like they really rushed into this at the pay per view, and they could have. I mean, we could have had the two of them not having matches, but sort of sparring or facing off or squaring up or yelling at each other for a couple more weeks, and then even do it at the pay per view at the end of this month or do it next month. I mean, there was no need to rush into this match. I don't think.
Yeah. Another thing is like the next pay per view is like just 3 weeks away.
Right, that's true. They have two in May, which is kind of odd.
It is kind of a weird. It's a super quick turnaround for the next pay per view. I thought like, is this another one of those network special shows? But no, it's actually the next pay per view in 3 weeks.
I know, pretty exciting for us fans of quick turnaround. Um, and I also liked after the match, Owens, who won clean, kind of tossed Sami Zayn out of the ring and then came down to do commentary and basically clowned Byron for the whole thing and wore JBL's cowboy hat.
Yeah, that was great. I like Kevin Owens on commentary because he's like Twitter Kevin Owens.
He is, yeah, yeah, he's delightful. He's just like insulting and sarcastic um, and the funny thing is too, like just to see those two guys, in front of this big crowd, 15,000 people or whatever it was, having a match the crowd was into, and just 4 years ago you could have seen these two guys wrestle for $20. Um, they've come a long way in a short period of time, and it's nice to see nice guys get a good shot. And despite his image as like the sarcastic, bullying shitheel, Kevin Owens is a very nice guy in real life. In fact, he went to visit Enzo Amore in the hospital, and after the show, and tweeted a funny picture of him and Enzo Amore out. So like he's a good guy on top of everything. It's nice to see good guys do well. Doesn't always happen.
It's true. Um,
So the Miz and Cesaro, which also there was some interference as Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn started brawling on the outside of the ring and got mixed up. Miz won with a sneaky roll up. I kind of enjoyed this. I like the Miz as the cowardly dickhead Intercontinental Champion.
yeah, it's good. It would probably be more exciting if the Intercontinental title meant anything.
Right? No, yeah, that's true. Yeah, at this point, the U.S. title is actually more meaningful because Kalisto has it.
Yeah, even though that was on the pre-show, so
Yeah, I mean that right now that's a more credible
it's
title.
really weird though because like remember like this time last year the U.S. title was like the hottest title
Yes, because
because John Cena.
John Cena. His name is John Cena. Um, and so yeah, so everything was cooking along pretty well this pay per view. Um, Dean Ambrose and Jericho was all right. It's kind of a cool down.
Yeah, but it was an all right match. Like I didn't think it was a bad match at all. I thought like I don't know. I think it's the kind of thing where the ending I didn't think was good. Like I didn't think the finish was good. Not that I thought Jericho should have won. I just thought like the way the win happened was not so hot.
I agree. Yeah, I thought it was not the best. And honestly, I'm getting a little tired of Dean Ambrose's character at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. Dean Ambrose's character is like I don't. What is it? High stupid guy who likes to get beat up. I honestly don't know what it is. Like because um he's not he I know like his thing is like the Ambrose Asylum. He's insane, but he doesn't play an insane character. He just plays a pothead. I don't know a lot like a fighting pothead. What is that his gimmick?
Yeah, and like I think what the idea they have in mind for him is sort of like Jared Leto's Joker character in Suicide Squad, but they don't want to go full on crazy.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe they're saving the full on crazy for a heel turn.
Maybe, but like right now he's kind of like you remember Pee Wee's Big Adventure when the convict picks him up and the convict is explaining what he did to go to prison, and it's getting really intense. He's like, I took a knife and it turns out he cut off one of those "do not remove" tags from a mattress. Like that's who Ambrose reminds me of. He's a guy. He comes out and you're like, oh man, this guy's a wild man, and then you're like, he just like throws a potted plant around or something, or he He draws a circle around the letter A. He's just it's like a guy who shows you he's a lives by his own rules kind of character by walking on the grass when there's a sign that says "Do not walk on the grass."
Yeah, yeah, it's like he doesn't do enough crazy stuff to be taken as crazy.
Yeah,
He just
exactly. That's exactly
he
right.
just talks like a high person. That's it.
He's the tamest crazy guy in wrestling.
Yeah, basically.
Um, so yeah, I'm not. Although I think that's probably the right outcome. Ambrose winning because has an almost Wyatt family-esque record when it comes to pay-per-view matches.
True. And despite like what we just said about him, other people seem to like him a lot.
Yes, no, I mean, if WWE fandom can be measured, or WWE wrestler popularity can be measured by the number of weirdos with Tumblr sex blogs about you, Dean Ambrose far and away the most popular wrestler in the WWE.
Yeah, and also Roman Reigns is pretty popular.
Yeah, the two of them. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure
Um,
Seth Rollins will have a similar level of
no,
popularity when he comes back.
um, yeah, and then after that was the Charlotte Natalia match, which to me was like a real throwback to the Divas matches of like 2 years ago, and that it was not good. It wasn't terrible, but it's kind of slow and awkward at points, and I can't tell you how much I hated the finish.
Yeah, jeez.
Redoing the Montreal script, like first of all, the thing I did like about this match a lot was that Bret Hart visibly hated everything.
Yeah. Well, that's true. But it like the ending was so dumb. Like why would you do that? Like I can understand like okay, we just want to redo the Montreal Screwjob, but why? Was Ric Flair in the Montreal Screwjob?
No,
I mean, exactly. Like what I mean, it would make sense if Charlotte Flair was actually like um Charlotte Michaels.
right,
You know what I mean?
right.
Like there's she was related to Shawn Michaels in some way, and then like okay, then it kind of makes sense. Like oh, but even then it doesn't because like who called in the screw job? Was it like Vince McMahon Jr. came out and
Yeah, well, that's the thing. There was no reason for it, and the kind of justification was Charles Robinson, the referee, aka Lil Nate, is well known to super fans as himself a super fan of Ric Flair, right?
yeah
But the level of sort of insidery knowledge you need to understand that, I think, is beyond most wrestling fans. So part of the reason is too because until just recently, every once in a while they do these weird things. So for a while, the directive came down from Vince not to the commentators not to use the referee names. So if you go back to the last year or so, they never named the referees. Like they wanted to de-emphasize their referees, and now they named them again. And now they had a referee playing an integral part in a championship match. And it's just this. That's to me is like the classic side of what's wrong with WWE.
yeah,
Like
but I mean, like you said, the thing with like connecting Charles Robinson to Ric Flair is like okay, if you watch WCW in like 1996, you totally understand this.
exactly.
Otherwise, like you don't. It's the kind of thing where like, okay, if I watched WCW 20 years ago and I saw the angle where Charles Robinson was Little Nate and he maybe I could kind of connect that, but I watched that and I didn't connect that.
Yeah. Right.
Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't like I remember that angle and I like had the announcers not mentioned it specifically, I definitely wouldn't have connected like Charles Robinson as like the the evil referee in this case.
Yeah. It's just the dumbest reason for doing that angle, like, and to try to come up with this motivation, like, oh, it's Charles Robinson because of the whole Lil Nate thing. Most people are going to be like, wait, what? Most people do not realize his nickname is Lil Nate. And you're right. It was just, and to just for some reason to the Montreal Screwjob, the only connection is that Bret Hart is at ringside. What was the point of that?
I don't know.
I hated it.
It was dumb. Um, but we get to see it again in 3 weeks.
That's right. We do get to see it again in 3 weeks, and hopefully it'll be a better match. I like Natalia. Charlotte's not bad, but the crowd wants to see Sasha Banks,
Yeah,
and for some reason they're holding her back, maybe to try to build up a SummerSlam thing.
seems more likely than anything.
Um, so, but I'm guessing that means Natalia. I mean, I don't see them putting the belt on Natalia.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
Um, and then the main event, which I really liked, Roman Reigns and AJ Styles. This was a great match. These two guys worked really well together. And again, like the people who hate Roman Reigns, I get that you don't like the way he's being booked, but the whole Roman Reigns can't wrestle thing is insane to me.
Yeah, that's not true. I mean, it was a good match. The wrestling was good at least. It was like way overbooked. I
It was, yeah, it was, but honestly, I didn't mind it. It reminded me kind of a classic Attitude Era overbooked match. Like it was sort of well done. It was just the right level of crazy intensity.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't horror. It didn't like take too much away from the match, but it was just like, you know, congratulations AJ Styles for winning twice.
Right. Oh no, that yeah, I like the run-ins, but the weird. So oh yeah, we should have mentioned that too. That after the women's match, um, there was this. I think it was approximately 9 hours long. It just felt like it just didn't end.
Yeah, it was like someone was filibustering something. It was it was a really long.
And it was Vince who came out. The one part about it I did like is that so the crowd, because Vince came out to the crowd and they're in Chicago, so the crowd of course starts chanting CM Punk, and and Vince is like Vince totally knew what to do. Vince handled it really well. They're all chanting CM Punk, and Vince goes, "Come on, is that the best you got?" Like Vince, all right, I like you, Vince.
Yeah.
I respect that. But then when the crowd settled down, it got really boring because Vince did this whole thing where is he going to give Raw to Shane and Raw to Stephanie, and then Stephanie comes out and Shane comes out, and they kind of bicker. And Shane shows a bunch of headlines from news sites praising recent Raws that in the storyline he's been in charge of. I don't know why he didn't mention halfway through the heat. It's the world's most important Trans-Pacific wrestling podcast, and we've been very complimentary of Raw. That must have been a weird oversight on his part. Um, but so anyway, then at the end, of course, in this weird, I hate, I kind of hate that so much of WWE in the last 20 years has been chapter after chapter in the story of the McMahon family's weird, gross internal drama.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not excited for more of that, but you know, it's kind of all right, I guess. I mean, it gives like it gives at least a little bit of a dynamic to it than other than like I guess face Shane being the instead of like a total flip, like you could have someone like Shane McMahon can come out and be like the face boss while you can have Stephanie McMahon be the evil underboss or whatever.
Yep.
I mean that works. It gives like it like at least gives you elements where they can like start screwing each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's better than a brand split, which had been rumored on the internet before. Another brand split is not the answer.
Bland split, bland
Bland
split.
split, yeah, I
That's
like that. Freudian slip.
yeah. It's all right. I mean, that segment was way too long, though. You're right, but they did show like the AJ Styles and Roman Reigns match did show the like kind of thing I'm talking about, where they kind of like try to undermine each other.
Yeah, yeah, and so it was all right. And it didn't interfere too much with the match, which was really hot. Roman Reigns and AJ Styles actually work really well together for two guys who have not worked together until now.
Yeah, they had a really good match together, and I mean, I think again, like there were too many of those like I'm gonna kick out of your finisher like 80 times.
Yeah, they've been doing it's almost like PWG levels at this point, where like finishers mean nothing anymore.
Yeah, well, like how many times did Roman Reigns kick out of the phenomenal forearm? Like 8?
Yeah.
And then,
And
but like, it was only that. It's not like AJ Styles kicked out of the spear ever. Like he got hit once and he was done.
right. Yeah, and I mean, if you're gonna replace the Styles Clash with a new finisher, you better establish that finisher as, a deadly weapon.
Yeah, I mean, I I don't think the phenomenal forearm is as good as a finisher as the Styles Clash, but like I mean, admittedly, AJ Styles didn't get the Styles Clash off, but I'm sure Roman Reigns would have kicked out of it anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't like I don't like that there's the too much kicking out of people's finishers because it just makes the finishers meaningless. Like,
I
what's the
agree.
point of having them at that point if they're not a finisher? They don't finish the match for you.
It's finisher inflation is what it is, and I won't stand for it. No, I agree. And I like PWG, but I feel like way too many of their matches have like finisher after finisher, and people are kicking out of them. And after a while, you're like, okay, so like, do they have to shoot each other? Like, how does this actually end?
Yeah,
I don't want to sound like somebody who's like, Harley Race, his finisher was a suplex. Why don't you? Damn it! I mean, like, I wrestling is more exciting than it was in the '70s, but yeah, there's after a while it just gets to be too much. You want to see like a great move like the Styles Clash or something like that, and you're like, that's it, one, two, three.
yeah, that doesn't happen, but because there could have been spots where you know he could have just done something else. He didn't have to use the his finisher. He could have just done something else and had the same effect. Like why use the finisher and to get the kick out? It doesn't help the spot any, but it takes away from the finisher.
Yep.
I don't know.
Um,
That's like it's kind of a minor complaint because the match was really good.
it was a good match. Yeah, it was a good match, and it was a good way to send off the pay-per-view.
I mean, and it was like um NWO levels of overbooked though. Just like false finish times 3 run-ins. It was, but it still ended up being good.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, we've got breaking news here.
Breaking news.
Breaking news: the Ryback has just released a statement on his status with WWE.
Oh wow.
Uh, I'm going to read briefly from it because it's kind of long, but I'll link to it on Closet of Anxiety. It starts off today. I sit and fly home, and for the first time in years, feel absolutely free. I will start by saying I did request to be taken off of WWE television until myself and Vince could get a yes or no on a new deal. Um, says he was told to head home. He says he has a major problem not only with WWE but wrestling in general. Quote, wrestling is predetermined. We as performers know before we go out to that ring or perform a backstage scene who is winning and losing or have a general idea of what we're going to say. It blows my mind how in a sport which is predetermined from a company standpoint, winners are paid so much more than the losers. Every single person who worked for WWE from top to bottom is absolutely just as valuable as the next. The winners cannot win unless the losers go out there and agree to lose them. That's interesting. He's saying there's a pay differential, I guess, that he doesn't like. Um, Goes on, he further complains about this pay differential. Thinks it's ridiculous that people who lose. Let's see. The winners have more merch as it is, or are supposed to anyway, so they get that extra perk. But why make the guy who was told to and agrees to lose earn less and sacrifice spots in big pay-per-view matchups, etc.? This is one of the major problems with WWE with wrestling in WWE today. Most guys take great satisfaction helping make other talent. The bitching and moaning we always hear about stems from the fact they know they are ultimately over time going to make less and live in fear of being released. I'm proud to say I've never gone to change a finish and have gladly took pride in helping put over other talent. Look at my pay-per-view record of 12 and 26, and you will see that has been the pattern of my career. Um, Personally, seeing my money go down over the years, even though I was working as much as ever and being denied magazine covers and other projects, as well as watching my role diminish no matter what I did or how hard I tried, takes its toll on a human. Being told no matter how hard I work or how good I get doesn't always pay off as something I fucking refuse to ever believe in my life. I'm a creative being, and to be restricted time and again is no way to live life. WWE may very well release me, which is, if it is the case, so be it. If we can work things out, a lot needs to change as I am not living in fear and creatively cannot continue to live a life that limits me creatively. I have many other interests and passions and have been very smart with my finances over the years. I thank every WWE superstar from top to bottom for their sacrifices and for working with me. The world is an amazing place, and there is more than just a WWE universe. The universe and I will prove one way or another over time I am the greatest big guy in the universe. Hmm.
There you go.
That is not. Yeah, there it is. So yeah, it sounds like he's unhappy with pay, unhappy with his role. The fact that he knows his pay-per-view record is 12-26 suggests he's unhappy with that. That's an interesting thing. Do you? Because this is something we hear a lot. We always hear people say winning and losing doesn't matter in wrestling. Do you think that's true?
No, it's not true. That's a story. That's like the story people who are losing feed to you to make it seem like no, it doesn't matter that I'm losing so much. Like who is the person who has said winning and losing doesn't matter? Um, it was Tyler Breeze.
Right.
It's not like he's saying that because he's winning.
Right. No, that's true. People who win never say winning doesn't matter. That's a good point, actually.
Um, it, it that's like the kind of WWE excuse that they use for booking people poorly. It's the kind of thing where they use it to explain away the like 50-50 booking that they do.
Yes.
They say like winning and losing doesn't matter, so we can just give you the same 50-50 kind of he got to win, I got to get my win back kind of thing. That's basically it's just an excuse because nobody wants to root for the person who loses all the time.
I agree. That's a good point. I I think in one sense it absolutely does matter because you're right. If you have a reputation as a loser, it's very hard to shake that, and it's very hard to get people to care about you. I mean, it doesn't matter as much as like MMA or boxing, right?
Yeah, it's not like it matters 100% of the time. It overall it matters. It's not like a
Yes.
something that's super important. Like, if John Cena loses a match, no one is going to be like, "Oh, John Cena's a loser. We don't want to see him anymore." They're just going to be like, "Oh, he'll win next time." But
Right.
because there's so many matches that it's, like in MMA, like you fight like one match every 3 or 4 months or something, maybe longer.
Yeah.
So in that sense, like a win or a loss matters a lot more. But in WWE, like obviously it's predetermined, but if you're like the Ryback, and what did he say his win loss record 12-26 or something at a
Well,
pay per view? It
26.
doesn't
Yeah.
actually look that good. I mean, it means he's like he loses like twice as much as he wins.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're right. Like an individual win or loss doesn't necessarily matter.
Yeah,
When Harley Race lost in the first Starcade to Ric Flair, it didn't kill Harley Race's career. But if Harley Race over time lost twice as often in big matches as he won, that would kill his career.
yeah. If for example, if you lost 6 straight matches on pay-per-views, basically people are going to be like, well, we can't support this guy anymore. He always loses. That's like
Yeah.
basically that's essentially what's happening to the Wyatt family.
Yes.
I mean,
Yep.
it's that kind of thing. It's just there's so many people who were like on the Wyatt train, you know what I mean? Like we love the Wyatt family, and then like they just kept losing and losing every pay-per-view. And then it was just the kind of thing where people were just tired of it. They're just like, well, what, why do we want to support these guys? They always lose. Winning matters. It does matter, even in like a kind of set situation, like how WWE is booked. Like if you're always on the losing end of the biggest match, your popularity is going to go down. So when
Right.
Ryback says stuff like this, it makes sense. If he's always losing, he's never gonna go to where he wants to go. He's never gonna be able to do what he wants to do.
Right. It also matters how you lose.
Yeah. I mean, if
So,
you're always losing by disqualification, it doesn't really matter.
yeah, or if you lose because the heel always has a manager or a valet who cheats and helps them win, then you still look strong, right?
Yeah.
Or or if you're in a submission match or something, and you pass out rather than tap out, you still look strong because you didn't tap out, that kind of thing. But you're right. I think wins and losses on balance, and if you can look back and say like, okay, I've been in 38 pay-per-view wrestling matches, and I've won 12 times. That does matter. Like the loss to Kalisto doesn't matter on its own, but if it's like, okay, I'm now 12 and 26, he's right to look at his record and say, they're not doing anything with me where anyone is going to take me seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I think the explanation from Ryback is actually pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense. He's saying like, it's weird. It's also weird that people that people who lose in the match get paid less.
Yeah, that's interesting. I
I
mean,
mean,
he didn't go into
that makes
detail about it,
sense
but
in a boxing match.
it makes a lot of sense in a boxing match. It makes no sense in a wrestling match. It's acting.
Yeah. So like when he's saying like why not pay the talent equally? I mean, that makes sense. If you're on the same in the match together, you're on the same level. You should be getting the same pay. But also he's saying like the winners get more money from merchandise. So that should be their bonus. That should be the extra money they're making.
Well, right, and that's absolutely true too. You look at you look at what merchandise is for sale. It's certainly not spread equally, and I don't think it should be. I mean, there are people who are more popular than others, but part of the reason that popularity happens is because guys win a lot, and people want to identify themselves as the winner.
Yeah. So it's this kind of like overarching narrative that the WWE people who are trying to put out like winning doesn't matter anymore. Well, it might not matter to you, but it matters to people who watch wrestling. So it might not matter in your booking, which is obvious, but like
Right.
it does matter to people who are watching. It honestly matters, even though everybody knows it's predetermined. Like if if the guy you like is predetermined to lose more than he is to win, you're probably not going to like him as much.
Right. And the stuff they'll compare themselves to pro sports where winning and losing obviously matters quite a bit. And they'll also compare themselves to like prestige television, like, oh, it's scripted and that kind of thing. Like it's Game of Thrones, it's Sopranos. Well, on those shows there's winners and losers too, right? There are characters who die and characters who keep going, and that matters a great deal. To sort of say to You can't have it both ways and compare yourself to things where winning and losing matters a great deal and say, oh, it doesn't. I mean, nobody cares. Fans don't care about that. They do. Even I care about it. You know?
But even then, it's not like on something like Game of Thrones, people don't care who wins or loses.
Well, exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean,
in Game of Thrones, usually if you lose, you're dead. But people care about that.
yes. Just like, yeah, absolutely. All the things that WWE would wants its audience to compare it to, winning and losing matters a great deal. And I was watching with Mark and I were watching the main event on Payback, and we were both rooting for AJ Styles. If you really tell your audience it doesn't matter who wins or loses, why am I even watching? Why am I getting invested in the finish of the match?
Yeah, I mean, why would it matter then? It's just you might as well just do 3 hours of promos.
Exactly. Yep.
So
Well, so we had some breaking
so the
news.
Ryback was totally right.
The Ryback was totally right. Um, uh, I went to see some indie show. Well, I went to see Ring of Honor, which I guess is sort of the. It's hard to consider them an indie, right? They're owned by a broadcasting company.
Yeah, it's they're yeah. It's what do you call Ring of Honor?
Yeah, like a minor major. I don't really know.
Yeah,
They're not really an indie. I mean, they're owned by a company. They're owned by a corporation, by Sinclair Broadcasting. Um, but whatever they are, I went to see them in Warwick, West Warwick, Rhode Island. Forgive me, West Warwick, Rhode Island, and there was drama before anyone got in the ring. I'm getting all this from the social media accounts of Drew Cordero, who is the promoter of Beyond Wrestling and also owns a food truck called Championship Melt. So Drew had, by his telling, gotten the permits to park at the West Warwick Civic Center, which is where the Ring of Honor show was, and sell his food, mostly artisan grilled cheese. Because wrestling fans, food, it's smart sales. He had been at the NXT show in Kingston, Rhode Island, the week before. So in his telling, he gets there for the Ring of Honor show, and someone from the venue, from the Civic Center, comes out and says, "You can't be here." And Drew says, "That's nonsense. I've got the permits and everything."
Hmm.
And then the person from the Civic Center goes inside, and out comes Ring of Honor Chief Operating Officer Joe Koff, who talks to Drew, tells him to leave. They kind of go back and forth. Eventually, the police show up, and in Drew's telling, there is a food truck code where if the police you don't make trouble for other food trucks by giving food trucks a bad reputation. So when the police show up and tell you to leave, you leave. So he left, not selling any grilled cheese, and folks inside were forced to buy the Ring of Honor concessions, which consisted of slices of pizza, small bags of Doritos, and cans of soda. Uh, so he wasn't making a big deal about it, but a lot of people were asking him about it on Twitter and Facebook, so he was trying to explain it. I haven't seen Ring of Honor comment on it. Um, and I don't know, the whole thing just kind of seems a little petty to me. Like, I don't know if they did it because he's a promoter of it. They definitely know about Beyond Wrestling because a lot of Ring of Honor guys are booked in Beyond Wrestling. I don't know what their motivation was. The whole thing just seemed a little petty to me. Like, who cares? NXT didn't care that there was this food truck from a wrestling promoter in their parking lot. I don't know why Ring of Honor should care.
Yeah, that's some drama.
But the actual show itself was good, apart from the drama. Um, and I enjoyed. I got to see some of my favorite wrestlers in a pretty intimate setting. I don't know how many people were in the building, um, but it was a good sized crowd. Um, got to see the Briscoes up close and personal. Um, got to see Jay Lethal wrestle local wrestler Vinny Marcellia. Um, I got to see Taylor Hendricks like 9 times. She wrestled and then it was like a valet like 3 or 4 times. It was like the Taylor Hendricks Invitational is what it was. Oh, and I got so I'm gonna pronounce his name wrong. Sickle Weasel from New Japan, Kamaitachi.
Come I touch.
He made his Ring of Honor debut wrestling ACH, and it was phenomenal. One of the best matches I've seen in a long time. The two of them did a really good job starting off slow with a lot of chain wrestling and like stiff chops and stiff kicks, and then they worked up to a lot of the high flying craziness, and that was just tremendous. Like I was blown away. I know he'd been in New Japan and CMLL, and a lot of people were talking about, but I'd never seen him before, and ACH was a perfect opponent for him. The two of them worked really well together, and just absolutely floored me. I'm going to buy a DVD of the show just for that match alone. Um, Although there were some guys who were like kind of like yelling borderline racist stuff.
That's uh that's unfortunate. That happens at wrestling shows sometimes.
Yeah, but like it's so stupid. They were yelling Domo Arigato and Ola. I guess because they didn't know which group of humans they should demonize because he's wrestled in both Japan and Mexico. But just shut up, dudes. Like what are you doing here? If you're God, it's so frustrating. I did see a couple drunk guys get thrown out though.
Oh wow. That's rare. That's rare at a
That is
wrestling show. The screaming stupid shit is not, but the getting thrown out, that's pretty rare.
the they were pretty cool about like letting you get up and wander around and like take pictures as long as you didn't block any other people's view. So I moved from our seats when the wrestlers would come out. They would pose on the side with the hard camera, so I just moved over to that side so I could get pictures of them when they came out. And there were these like drunk guys, 2 or 3 drunk guys, just standing around like yelling, and I guess they were bothering people during the matches. When I wasn't there, I'd like go back to my seat during the matches. But so I went over there for right before the Young Bucks came out, and these drunk guys were yelling, and then he's suddenly swarmed by security guards who were like, "Time to go, gentlemen!" And they took like the 3 guys out, and the guys were like protesting or whatever. They went quietly, and then all the people who were standing around me who were in that section all started chanting that was awesome.
Awesome.
So apparently they were desirous of being freed of the company of the loud drunk guys. Um, but yeah, so I had a good time at Ring of Honor. I would definitely go back. This was the first time they've been in New England in like 3 years.
Yeah, I guess they were in New York, but that's not New England.
Yeah. Um, it's too bad. They should come more often. After the main event, which involved the Briscoes, the Motor City Machine Guns, and Red Dragon, Jay Briscoe grabbed the microphone, and the first thing he said was, "What up, Providence?" Yeah. Close enough. Close enough. About maybe 10 miles away. Close enough, Jay. No one was gonna challenge him on that. Let's just put it that way.
Where was the show? Was it in Warwick?
West
West
Warwick,
Warwick. Wow.
beautiful West Warwick.
Wow, West Warwick. Haven't been there in a long time.
No, no, yeah, we used to go there because there's Newberry Comics there.
Yeah.
Um, but it was an okay venue and good show. And the night before, I went to see Blitzkrieg Pro Wrestling in Enfield, Connecticut, which included Dijak. So I saw Dijak two nights. Um, Chuck Taylor, Kimberly, Flex, Rumble Crunch, Tommy Dreamer was there. Got a huge, huge ovation from the crowd. Here's the weird thing about Blitzkrieg Pro: they put on a good show. There's like 200 or so people at every show. Decent crowd. Crowd is always hot. Like the crowd is really into the match. But so they love the local guys. Love the local guys. And there's usually like a star who's been on WWF TV at some point since the 1980s. Well, from the 1980s to the early 2000s. So like Jimmy Hart, Scotty 2 Hottie, Tommy Dreamer, guys like that. Crowd loves those guys. They don't like anyone else. Like, not that they don't like them, they don't know anyone else. So there's like big name indie people like Chuck Taylor, who's been around the indies for a long time, was in Ring of Honor, is in PWG, Chikara, all that stuff. He came out, no reaction. No one had any idea who he was. I was the only one standing and applauding, and he actually pointed at me and said, "That guy gets it." And like Kimberly, Chikara champion, wrestles on Shine all the time, very well known, gets mainstream press, is in Rolling Stone, came out, no reaction from the crowd. It's the Dijak is now getting a reaction because he's been there like four shows in a row. But I was there when his first show in Blitzkrieg. Nope, Dijak's on Ring of Honor all the time. No one, I mean, like nothing. People just look at him like whatever. It's so weird that there are like hardcore wrestling fans who come out to see indie wrestling and they just don't know any big indie wrestlers.
Yeah, that's pretty weird. Scotty Too Hotty will get set the room on fire though.
Yeah, like Scotty 2 Hottie, and then like the mastermind Marshall McNeil, like the most local of local wrestlers. Guys who have never wrestled outside of like a three-state area. Well, like people will be on their feet and cheering, and like I don't get it. It's exciting. I don't get it.
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
Um, so I think that's probably it for this week.
That's all we got. I think that pretty much covers what happened for the week. And
We had breaking news on our cycle this time with Ryback's statement.
that's true. We had the Ryback coming through for the old halfway through the Heat podcast.
If you love this wrestling content and want more wrestling content, you can go to closetofanxiety.tumblr.com or hockeyjinjo.tumblr.com. There's a lot of wrestling content there. There's slightly less wrestling content on Twitter, but there is wrestling content. I am at TJ Breen. He is at xcornmuffinx. We'll be back next week with more exciting news from the world of Grappledom.
Probably less exciting news from election world though.
Yeah, right? What an exciting night this was, folks. But yes, so if you like the show, comment on the YouTube page or tweet at us or say something on Tumblr about how I was slighting beloved local wrestler Dan DeMann, which is somebody actually did last week, and I felt bad because I didn't mean to. I like Dan DeMann, I just forgot to mention him.
Stop slighting local wrestlers.
I know, God, I feel terrible. All right, so thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll be back next week.
All right, see you guys next week.